What's up, fantasy people? This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and Banjo, the dog, coming at you live from my living room. And this is the Fantasy Footballin' Show. Today's episode, this is a continuation of our hit episode, How Championships Were Won Last Season. Except for this time, we're going to go through 2020 through 2022. That is 3 years of data instead of the one. Alex Cates, a fantasy analyst and doctorate student, helped me out with this data. So shout out to Alex. He has a website with a lot of great fantasy write-ups. I will leave a link in the description. And the question that we are trying to answer is, where should we draft running backs and wide receivers to give us the best chance to win championships? So we're going to be going through the players from the last 3 seasons that gave you the best odds to win a championship. We're going to see where those players are drafted and see what it means to our draft strategies. Let's head right into this. Let's get into the 2020 data right now. All right, everybody, this is the 2020 data. This is how all of the years will be set up today. So we have the running backs with their ADPs right next to that. Then we have their odds of, if you own this player, this is your odds that you made the playoffs. And then right next to that, if you own this player, that is your odds of winning the championship. So looking at this right now, 26.4% of Jeff Wilson owners won the championship in 2020, and 71.3% of Jeff Wilson owners made the playoffs in 2020. You can see I have values of 193. That is Jeff Wilson's ADP. In reality, he is undrafted. But in a 12-man league, the last pick is 192, so I'm assigning 193 to all undrafted players. And what we're going to do, we're going to highlight all of the ADPs that are 50 or higher. That is the cutoff line. It's just arbitrary, but that is 6th round for 10-man leagues. And the beginning of the 5th round begins at pick 48 for 12-man leagues. Then we're going to average out all of their ADPs and kind of get an idea of where these championship teams drafted these contributing running backs. So right here, there were 12 of these highlighted players. They averaged out to 154.7. That is 16th round in a 10-man league. And now we're going to do the same thing for the wide receivers. So Diggs is at the top. 26.3% of Diggs owners won the championship, while 54.1% of Diggs owners just made the playoffs. So we highlighted all of these values. We did include Metcalf and Lockett. They were 49, 49.7. I'm kind of giving a plus or minus like 2 values in this. And then here at the bottom, you can see it was 131.4. And as you can see at the bottom, there were 14 of these type players with an average of 131.4 ADP. That is the 14th round in a 10-man league. So we're looking at 16th round, 14th round. They were finding their running backs 2 rounds earlier than they were finding their contributing wide receivers. And then just for giggles, we can see that, Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, like the top 3 tight ends made it. Then also there are some sleeper tight ends on here as well. So it's kind of a 50-50 mix this year. And then, hey, man, this is like the last year that you can really see that the late round quarterback strategy really worked. Every single one of these quarterbacks were taken really late. Lamar Jackson was the only highly drafted pick, and he came in 8th on this list. So you can see why people really liked and hung on to this late quarterback strategy. All right, everybody, this is the 2021 data. Starting with the running backs first, you can see that Austin Eckler is near the top. So 19.4% of Austin Eckler owners won the championship in 2021, while 57.1% of Eckler owners only made it to the playoffs. So we're going down to the bottom again. There were 12 of these highlighted players. They averaged out to a ADP of 128.4. So that is 13th round of a 10-man league. And that is the same amount of tagged running backs as 2020, but with a much higher ADP. So you're looking at the 2020 with 154.7. Now we're going 3 rounds earlier, 2.5 rounds earlier at 128.4. Looking at the wide receivers, Amon-Ra was at the top, which is kind of normal the last couple of years. So 24.7% of St. Brown owners won a championship in 2021, while 59.6% of St. Brown owners only went to the playoffs. And you can see there were a lot of contributing wide receivers late this year, with 16 going down all the way to the bottom. They averaged out to an ADP of 123.1. That is about a half round earlier than the contributing running backs that went this year. So this is the most equal year between running backs and wide receivers. 128.4 running backs, 123.1 wide receivers. So looking at the tight ends, it really paid off to wait on tight ends this year. The only top tight end that really contributed to championships in 2021 was Kelsey, per usual, but this was a good year to wait on tight ends. And looking at the quarterbacks real fast, this was the first year that the late round quarterback strategy really did not work out that well. The top 3 quarterbacks, here we go, like Allen, Mahomes, Kyler Murray. They did make it into that top 8. And then we had some rookies, Burrow, Herbert, Taysom Hill, an outlier. Hurts, who saw that coming? And then Dak has always been underrated. So we can kind of see a transition to, really top tier quarterbacks paying dividends. So now we're getting into last year's 2022 data. You can see that the late round running backs didn't contribute as much as the studs this last year. Looking at the top of the running backs, 22.8% of CMC owners won a championship in 2022, while 55.6% of CMC owners only made it to the playoffs. So this year we can see that there were less tagged running backs than the previous 2 years, 12, 12, all the way down to 8 this season. And these players averaged out to 110.8 ADP, which is 10th round in the 12 league, 12th round in 10-man league. Now looking at the trend through the last 3 years, 2020's average ADP was 154.7. We're looking at 16th round, man. 2021, running backs are going a little bit earlier that contribute, 128.4. That's the 13th round. And then last year, it started creeping up even more where the contributing running backs, you had to pick them up all the way to 110.8, and that is the 12th round in 10-man leagues. What we're going to average out those 3 years ADPs. We come up with 131.3. So these contributing running backs over the 3 years have been being found in the 11th round in 12-man leagues and 13th round in 10-man leagues. So looking at the wide receivers, again, not a lot of high-end late-round contributors. 20.4% of A.J. Brown owners won a championship in 2022, while 58.3% of A.J. Brown owners just made it to playoffs. All right, we're going down. There were only 8 tagged wide receivers this season. That is much less than the 16 in 2021 and the 14 in 2020. And these tagged players averaged out to 87.4, which is the 9th round in 10-man leagues. So we're going to compare the 3 years of contributing wide receivers. In 2020, there were 14 of them with an average, going in the 14th round pretty much, 131.4. In 2021, there were 16 of those going in the 13th round, a little bit earlier, 123.1. And then last year, there were only 8 of those late round contributors for championship teams going at 87.4, which is all the way up in the 9th round. So let's average all 3 seasons of contributing wide receivers ADPs. And that is in the orange, that is 114. So let's compare the two. So over these 3 years, the championship teams have been finding their late round contributing running backs in rounds 11 and 13, while they have been finding their contributing late round wide receivers in rounds 10 or 12. So what we're seeing here is that you can find your contributing running backs about a round and a half later than your contributing wide receivers. So what I am going to try to do in my draft, really hit those mid-round wide receivers, get a lot of them, and then after that, start rolling the dice, start drafting, rookie running backs, backup running backs, or important backup running backs, high-end running backs coming off an injury, stuff like that. Get your running backs very late. And now looking at last year's tight ends, you can see that it was a tight end wasteland. If you did not get a top tight end, you were pretty much screwed. Only Hawkinson was the person that was the late round contributor. And even that, he was ADP 73.7. So it's not like he waited that long for a tight end. And then also again last year, late round quarterback strategy did not pan out. You can see Mahomes, 22.2% of Mahomes owners won a championship last year, while 60% of Mahomes owners made it to the freaking playoffs, dude. That's crazy. All right, everybody, that is the show. Thank you so much for watching. I can't tell you how good it makes me feel just to get a thumbs up. The last video got us 200 subscribers, and oh my God, dude, I've been having a hard time sleeping because I've been so excited for this. So thank you so much. If you want to see more stuff like this, or if you have some ideas for me to analyze, throw them at me, leave a comment. So remember, we're going to try to get a top tier quarterback. We're going to maybe get a top tier tight end, or we're going to wait till the very end. We're going to get a top end wide receiver. We're going to try to get a stud running back. Then we're going to hit mid-round wide receivers hard. And then at the very end, we're going to go late-round running backs all day long. And then we're going to win a championship. So this is Tyler Big Turd Ward. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Catch you on the flip side.